Hello, everyone, and welcome back to NYC Builds Bio monthly programming. My name is Nancy Kelly, and I serve on the steering committee and as a founding member of NYC Builds Bio. I would like to acknowledge the founding and corporate members of NYC Builds Bio who make this programming possible. We're excited to welcome all of you to the 7th webinar of our sponsored seminar series with Triumvirate Environmental. This webinar series is called Life Science Subclusters in the Greater New York Metro Area. And this week, we're headed north to the Bronx and Westchester County, as well as the Hudson Valley. Our first webinar, held in January, discussed the impact of a recent New York City planning report of the Greater New York Metro Life Science economy on all of the subclusters in the Greater New York region. It concluded that the New York metro area, which includes New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, enjoys the largest life science economy in the United States, and the 2020 census shows it growing faster than many other regions of the country. The second webinar, held in February, focused on two of the fastest growing subclusters in New York City, Midtown West and Long Island City. The third webinar, held in March, focused on the exciting new projects in Midtown East and Manhattanville in Harlem. And in keeping with the focus of the Greater New York metro area, the fourth webinar took a look at the Hudson Square and Jersey City area just across the Hudson in New Jersey. In the fourth webinar, we focused on the oldest and most substantial life science cluster in New York City, the area around Mount Sinai Health System and Academic Alley, which is the largest concentration of the best academic medical centers in the world. Last month, we focused on Brooklyn and Long Island, which enjoy a great diversity of resources for the life science community, from national laboratories to top healthcare and research institutions, to new incubators for transformative technologies beyond therapeutics, to community spaces and manufacturing capabilities. You can find links to all of those webinars on the New York City Builds Bio website. The seminar series runs for 8 episodes from January through September 2022, each covering different life science clusters in more depth. The next seminar is scheduled for September 8th, focusing on Connecticut, where lots is happening, especially around Yale in New Haven. Registration is open, so be sure to sign up after this event to learn more. Also, check out our website for other upcoming events, in-person tours, and receptions, which are scheduled throughout August and September. We're especially excited about the inaugural Philly Builds Bio Symposium at the Union League of Philadelphia on September 13th, and the 2022 5th annual NYC Builds Bio Symposium at the Times Center on November 1st. Our speakers today include, from the Bronx, Megan Guy, Vice President of Development, Simone Healthcare Development, Guy Liebler, President, Simone Healthcare Development, Dr. Gordon Tomaselli, Executive Vice President and Chief Academic Officer, Albert Einstein Medical School, Dr. Harris Goldstein, Professor of Pediatrics and Microbiology and Immunology, Albert Einstein Medical School. From Westchester County, we have Deborah Novick, Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation, Office of Economic Development for Westchester County, Deborah Viola, Vice President, Clinical Research Center of the Westchester Medical Center, Dr. Rajiv Radha, Chief Executive Officer of the Burke Neurological Institute, and Mary Howard, Executive Director of Design Technologies. From the Hudson Valley iCampus, we have Sheena Gohill, Executive Managing Director, New York City, from Colliers. Before I turn it over to Triumvirate Environmental for introductions, I just wanted to cover a few administrative details. We have over 100 people registered for today, so please keep your cameras and mics off during the program to minimize technical difficulties. There's a program in PowerPoint highlighting the host, sponsors, speakers, and content for the meeting. These will be posted on NYC Builds Bio after the meeting, and the event is also being recorded and will be available on both the website and our YouTube channel. Since most of you are participating in listen-only mode, please feel free to submit your questions via the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, and we'll open up for Q&A at the end of the program, and we'll address as many audience questions as possible. If you have time at the end of the meeting, we'll also have a chance for smaller randomized groups in separate rooms where you can open your videos and mics to talk to each other and stay as long as you want. Now I would like to introduce Alicia Anello, General Manager, New York Branch, Triumvirate Environmental, and the lead sponsor for this series.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and good afternoon, everyone. I can't believe this is our penultimate session. This was an 8-part series, and Nancy, you've been so fantastic throughout. This was a really nice idea, and I hope that everybody's got as much enjoyment out of these sessions as I have. So my name is Alicia Aniello. I am the General Manager of Triumvirate's New York and New Jersey operation. Triumvirate's been the leading environmental health and safety service provider to the life science community for over 34 years. From laboratory moves to regulatory setup, permitting, and on-site support, including waste disposal. We've partnered with hundreds, I'm in New York, you can hear the sirens, there's always something in the background, on-site support, including waste disposal. We've partnered with hundreds of life science companies across the country and helped them grow safely from their early stages in incubator spaces through to production and manufacturing spaces. I've been with Triumvirate for almost 16 years. It was 16 years last week, actually. It's been wonderful to witness this cutting edge, a lot of this cutting edge technology come to life from these lab spaces. Triumvirate's success comes from our flexibility and our customization of our offerings to fill all EHS needs through one vendor, thus leaving the researchers and management companies free to remain hyper-focused on their science and the success of their businesses. With the excitement and growth here in our New York metro area, I thought Triumvirate could host this series, sponsor. Nancy's definitely the host. I thought Triumvirate could sponsor this series and place a spotlight on the region in front of our long list of life science clientele across the country. As Nancy discussed, with world-class research, hospitals, and top universities, along with the growing amount of space and funding being dedicated to life science here in the New York metro area, our location is ideal for collaboration between researchers and innovators. At the local level, Triumvirate has a full operation in New York City since 2003, including the only commercially permitted hazardous waste storage facility in the 5 boroughs. We are the only local resource in this market, and having the facility puts us in the same seat as all of our clients. We're under the full scrutiny of NYC DEP, FDNY, New York State DEC. We get inspected all the time. They're always a surprise, and they've all gone great. We've been providing EHS support and consulting, waste disposal support, and emergency response services to some of the largest research institutions in New York City for over 20 years. We have over 40 consultants local to the New York metro area and a fleet of just over 50 vehicles. Last week, not as part of this series, as part of a separate series, last week, Nancy took us on a fabulous in-person tour of the Tasty Building in Harlem. Moving just further north into the Bronx really ties out the understanding of this really large footprint of our life science ecosystem. Montefiore and Westchester Medical Center have been clients of Triumvirate's for many, many years. We're looking forward to watching the science grow in the Bronx and Westchester. Again, thanks to Nancy and New York City Builds Bio for providing us with this platform to spread the word about all the developments here in the New York metro area.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Alicia. You've been so gracious to sponsor this series. And for those of you who haven't been able to attend all of them, I really encourage you to look on the website. There is just a wealth of information there about the greater New York metro area. And it's really quite astounding, the depth and diversity of life science activity that's going on. So Carolina, can we have the next slide, please? So we're turning to the Hutchinson Metro Center in the Bronx, and Guy and Megan are going to tell us all about that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Nancy, for having us today. My name is Megan Guy. I'm Senior Vice President of Development at Simone Development Companies. I'm joined today by my colleague, Guy Liebler, President of Simone Healthcare Development. Next slide. Simone Development Companies is a fully integrated, privately held investment and development company. Our portfolio totals over 7 million square feet across 130 properties located in the tri-state region, the majority of which are healthcare assets. We are headquartered in the Bronx at the Hutchinson Metro Center. Next slide. The Hutchinson Metro Center is a 48-acre campus featuring 4 buildings totaling 1.4 million square feet. The campus development began in 2001 with the acquisition of 1200 Waters Place. The building was completely renovated and repositioned. One of the largest tenants at the property today is Mercy College. In 2008, Simone completed Tower 1, a 280,000 square foot medical and office tower. Next slide. In 2014, Simone completed construction of Tower 2, a 280,000 square foot bedless hospital for Montefiore Medical Center. The ambulatory surgery center features 12 operating rooms, 4 procedure rooms, 64 pre and post-operative bays, on-site imaging and laboratory space, and primary and specialty care practices. In 2014, the Metro Center atrium also opened. The 350,000 square foot mixed use center features a Marriott Residence Inn, medical and professional offices, and retail, including Dunkin' Donuts and LA Fitness. We're also excited to announce that in 2023, we will be expanding our campus, which we will talk about shortly. A new Metro North station is also coming to our campus in 2026 that we are anxiously awaiting. Next slide.
So the proximity of the Hutchinson Metro Center and part of our excitement of acquiring sometime in the next 95 days, this new 33 acres for the state of New York is location. Sitting in the Bronx, not too far from the border with Westchester County, and within about a 20-minute ride into Manhattan, bearing any unique travel accidents and other calamities for construction. We are so well positioned into Manhattan, up to Stamford, going through Westchester, and of course with the train station coming, using the Amtrak line into Penn Station, we will have direct and easy access for people who need to do business or who want to commute during the day to work at the Hutchinson Metro Center. The current center, which has 8,000 employees and we think somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 visitors every day coming to work for their medical requirements. Our new campus, which will include residential, academic, hospitality, retail, along with the medical uses, is really its own mixed-use ecosystem. And given the fact that we are right on the Hutchinson River Parkway, not too far from 95, which is a major artery running really throughout all of the Northeast, and having close proximity to LaGuardia Airport, just across the Whitestone to Triborough Bridge, and then a little bit further out to JFK Airport. We have regional, national, and international travel, along with the roadway connections and the coming train station. It is one of the most unique locations that you'll find in the New York metropolitan area. We are extremely excited to have been partnering with Montefiore and the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. They are a important medical school to the New York metropolitan area. They are a major recipient of NIH grant and funding. and have created and spun out a number of life science and new biotech companies. And as they continue to grow and create many, many exciting things, they will be not only a partner with us in the area and neighbors across the street, but collaborators and partners on this new campus as well. And it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Gordon Tomaselli along with Dr. Harris Goldstein to tell you much more about the exciting things happening at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. Thank you.
Next slide. We have a couple more slides.
Oh, I'm sorry, Megan.
That's okay. So this slide is just showing both campuses and that proximity that Guy was talking to. Montefiore Einstein has a strong presence on the Hutchinson Metro Center already, particularly with Tower 2, the bedless hospital. But with the Metro North train station coming, the two campuses will be connected even better. Combined, both campuses total over 110 acres and over 6.4 million square feet. Next slide. And this is an early rendering of the train station. We're currently working with MTA and MTA's design builder. Next slide. And this is the master plan for our campus expansion. As Guy mentioned, we're very excited to move forward with the acquisition later this year. We're acquiring 33 acres of land immediately south of our existing campus from New York State. The total development will be 1.8 million square feet. The first phase will be 1 million square feet. New York State has overrode New York City zoning, and in lieu of that, the project will be governed by declaration of covenant restrictions and design guidelines. Life sciences is a permitted use, as well as a GMP facility is also permitted up to 20,000 square feet. And as Guy mentioned, we also envision academics, office, hospitality, healthcare, retail, and residential on our campus. And we're looking forward to sharing more in the coming months about our plans.
One other thing to just add, with the coming of the train station and certainly our development and master planning considerations by Montefiore and Albert Einstein for the next 20 years and beyond for their growth, the city of New York, city planning has been in a study to rezone a lot of the land that is just going to be to the north of the train station along Eastchester Road and Stillwell Avenue. And we expect that in the next generation, there will be high-rise residential apartments that, again, will add to the vitality of this area, providing more housing for researchers and scientists and doctors and nurses and other people working in the life science and healthcare arena. So it is just another way to show that this area is changing rapidly, and it really is a collaboration with Simone, Montefiore Einstein, and the city of New York as well.
That was all we have today, Nancy.
Terrific. Well, I can't wait to see how this all unfolds. It's very, very exciting. So now we get to introduce Dr. Gordon Tomaselli and Dr. Harris to talk about the Goldstein, to talk about the Einstein Medical School.
So hopefully everybody can hear me, and I want to welcome everybody to this 7th installment, and we're going to be talking obviously about the Bronx, which is where we're located. My name is Gordon Tomaselli. I am the Maryland and Stanley M. Katz Dean of the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Harris Goldstein, who's a professor of pediatrics, molecular biology, and immunology, and who's our associate dean for scientific resources. So let me just give you a bit of an introduction, next slide, to the College of Medicine and the health system. So this is an aerial view of our campus, which is in the Morris Park district in the East Bronx. You've heard a little bit about us, and I want to thank Megan and Guy for helping to introduce us. The campus includes not only the medical school, but to the south, the Weiler Hospital, as well as a medical park in Westchester Square. And we're adjacent to and neighbors with the Hutchinson Metro Center. And in fact, we see patients in the towers at the Hutchinson Metro Center. Our campus is part of an emerging biotech hub in the Bronx, and it's at the northern end of a really richly endowed and growing New York City life sciences corridor that really starts at Sunset Park in Brooklyn and runs through Long Island City, Kips Bay, NYU, Hudson Square, includes the New York Genome Center, New York Stem Cell Foundation, Mount Sinai, Weill Cornell, Memorial Sloan Kettering, the Hospital for Special Surgery, Rockefeller, the Lenox and Metropolitan Hospitals, Columbia, the CUNY Advanced Science Research Center, as well as the New York Proton Center and the New York Structural Biology Center, as well as Columbia University Medical Center, Presbyterian Hospital, and Alexandria Launch Lab. So really an amazingly concentrated and rich environment of academic health centers. Next slide. For this audience, you're probably aware of what an academic medical center is, but let me just orient you for a little bit. An academic medical center has several components. It is a health system that's combined with professional schools for training physicians and other health providers, as well as including scientists who are focused on biomedical research and answering biological questions. This collaboration between fraternity and quaternary healthcare integrated with professional schools provides really broad-based patient care in the setting of medical education and cutting-edge research. Importantly, academic medical centers are local and regional economic engines. These are really elite centers, about 5% of all hospitals in the United States, and they conduct over half of the NIH-funded research in this country. And particularly for the management of complex diseases, they are associated with an improvement in quality of care. So academic medical centers house the majority of cancer centers, burn units, level 1 trauma centers, and pediatric intensive care units. And Einstein Montefiore is one of several academic medical centers in New York and the only one in the Bronx. And it's allowed us to recruit leading faculty interested in the application of research to clinical care, to train students, residents, and fellows, and importantly, to provide top clinical care for patients in the Bronx, Westchester, and the lower Hudson Valley. These are the demographics of our college, and I'm not going to read them. I will highlight a few things, including the fact that we have almost 2,000 faculty members that are engaged in clinical care, education, and research. We have 310 investigators who run research laboratories, over 1,000 postdoctoral students of all types, and we house 7 NIH-funded research centers, and I'll come back to that in just a minute, as well as 10 centers of excellence and 50 shared facilities that Harris Goldstein will talk to you about in a little bit. The College of Medicine is also a founding member of the New York Genome Center and the New York Structural Biology Center. So next slide. We are part of an academic health system, and that's Montefiore Medicine Academic Health. And it is an extensive system. It's a $6.5 billion organization comprised of 11 hospitals, over 220 ambulatory care locations in the Bronx and Westchester and the Hudson Valley. And the health system employs over 40,000 individuals and has 2,400 providers and really excels in a number of areas, including pediatric care at the Children's Hospital at Montefiore, solid organ, as well as bone marrow transplantation, cancer care and treatment, and heart and vascular disease management. Next slide. So we have a number of both basic science and clinical departments that are engaged in education, research, and clinical care. There are translational research links between the basic sciences and clinical departments that really help to catalyze and accelerate the discovery of new knowledge and application of those discoveries to patients. Next slide. As I mentioned, many of our research programs and clinical programs are supported by well-established NIH-funded centers and centers of excellence. And these centers generally reflect or mirror our areas of research focus. And they include the Montefiore Einstein Cancer Center, our Center for AIDS Research, which you'll hear about more as well, Diabetes Research Center, our Institute for Clinical and Translational Research. We also have an aging center, and at the Rose F. Kennedy hospital, we have a center, we have an intellectual and developmental diseases research center. We have a number of centers of excellence that really span the gamut from providing training opportunities for people in the Bronx, like the Bronx Hope or Bronx Health Opportunities Partnership, and a full range of centers of excellence that are involved in research, including our Children's Evaluation and Rehabilitation Center, the Gruss Lipper Biophotonics Center, the Gottesman Stem Cell Institute, and our Translational Blood Research Institute, as well as the Wilf Family Cardiovascular Research Center, to name a few. Next slide. So all of these centers really link to our areas of major research focus, and they include cancer and stem cells, brain health and science, infectious diseases and immunity, and aging and metabolism. And they're all supported by, listed below these images, these NIH program grants that support a lot of the activities in these centers. And they're linked to clinical and translational research by the Harold and Vera Block Institute for Clinical and Translational Research. So next slide. We've also been actively involved in the process of translating discoveries at the bench into the clinic. We have an increasing portfolio of licensing and option agreements, and have birthed and hosted a number of startup companies on our campus. And this is a venture of ours that continues to grow. Next slide. A few examples of the Einstein spin-off companies, some of which started in the Bronx, but others now live elsewhere, are Q Biopharma, which is a clinical stage biopharmaceutical company that really targets the modulation of T cells to impact and to treat diseases like cancer, infectious disease, and autoimmunity. And it's founded by an Einstein faculty member, Steve Alma. XVax is a company that's developing vaccines against pathogens that are acquired by mucosal infection like herpes, and it was founded by Einstein scientists Bill Jacobs and Betsy Harold. Stelexis is a company that's designed and focused on cancer therapeutics and basically discovering and targeting novel origins of tumors. And there are a number of Einstein investigators who founded this company, including Uli Steidl, Everest Gavathiotis, Amit Verma, and Ramon Perez Solar. And finally, Microcures has created a broad platform and pipeline of therapeutic programs that are involved in nerve and tissue repair, founded by David Sharp, Kelvin Davies, and Joel Friedman. Next slide. We've also been working with investment partners to help move discoveries forward and to accelerate the development of novel therapeutics, and recently had a pitch competition that was supported by Alexandria Venture Investments, Orange Grove Bio, and Alicorp. And awards went to 2 of our labs to support the development of therapeutics and platforms for commercialization. So actively involved in not only bench research, but also taking that bench research and trying to moving it into patient populations, as well as the education of health professional students on our campus and clinical care. So now what I'd like to do is welcome and turn the program over to our Associate Dean for Scientific Resources, Dr. Harris Goldstein, who's going to describe some of our core services and business development initiatives. So Harris.
Thanks a lot, Dean Tomaselli, and Nancy, thanks for organizing this really great symposium. Can I have the next slide, please? So at Einstein, as the Dean mentioned, we have an incredibly robust research enterprise. And in order to provide our investigators with the proper resources that are required to do the sophisticated work that they do, we have developed these research core facilities. And this enables investigators to get access to these powerful and sophisticated technologies, genetic, molecular, structural, analytical, statistical, and imaging technologies. And these require both access to a very well-trained staff as well as expensive equipment. And we have tens of millions of dollars of equipment that are available to our investigator to support their research function. We support over 300 Einstein Montefiore investigators that are funded by over $185 million of annual NIH research grant funding. And these cores annually bill over $14 million a year for their services. And this includes greater than $1.2 million of services that are supporting external sources, including companies, biotech companies, and life science companies. Next slide, please. Now, we are open for business, and we are designed to be friendly to emerging and established biotechnology companies in order to enable as seamless a process as there can be for accessing this services as well as building the services. We have developed standard service agreement template that enables rapid contracting with our cores. We use an iLab core facility management software that provides transparency in terms of pricing, enables investigators to reserve equipment for future use, as well as develop service requests and support for more complex projects, including developing estimates for what the service would be. We are also open nationally through marketplaces such as scientist.com and Science Exchange that enables investigators throughout the country to have easy access to our core services without any significant legal red tape. And in addition, as I'll show in a minute, Einstein also has space that's allocated for hosting new emerging incubator companies. And for those companies that are housed at Einstein, we provide discounted rates for core facility service and ready access to them, again, which is a major advantage of being housed in Einstein Incubator's space. Next slide. And this just is a list of some of the shared core facilities that we have available. And again, obviously don't have time to read through it, but they're focused on aspects of cell analysis, molecular structural analysis, genetic manipulation, clinical translational research, genetic analysis, tissue analysis, and animal research. And the bottom line is that almost anything that needs to be done, we have shared core facilities that are able to support those particular services. So again, if you're a company, you clearly don't have the infrastructure for doing more sophisticated type research, what's great is to be able to do that through Einstein shared facilities and cores. Next slide. And this is just a demonstration of our incubator support system that we have. We have early stage incubator space available at Einstein that provides affordable lab space for early stage biotech and life science startup companies. And this website lists available lab space. These are just sample pictures of what some of the space looks like. And again, as I mentioned previously, tenants receive discounted access to cores and shared facilities. In addition, they have access to some of the other support areas for research, including conference rooms, cold rooms, freezers, and again, the intellectual stimulation of being located on a campus where we have seminars occurring all the time in multiple different areas, and the potential for stimulating collaborations with our many NIH-funded research investigators. Next slide. One of the major areas of future growth that we're involved in is a program called Embark. And this is a proposal to accelerate the development of innovative CAR T-cell based and antibiotic biologic based treatments, not for our Einstein investigators, but for investigators at life science and biotech companies. And the vision of this was funded by a $13 million grant awarded from New York City Economic Development Corporation. And the idea behind it is to develop a new model to support life science companies. And again, there are many contract research organizations that are out there. These CROs provide support. However, what Einstein adds to that is access to world-class scientific expertise of our Einstein researchers and our shared facilities. In addition, we also provide access for Montefiore integrated healthcare delivery system to really enable rapid translation of discoveries in the lab into translation into clinical studies, which is critical for moving drug candidates along ultimately for FDA approval. And as Guy and Megan talked about, we also are leveraging the greater Bronx access being provided by the upcoming Metro North Morris Park Station, really to create a new and an exciting biotech research hub in an underdeveloped area of the Bronx that in addition will drive economic and job growth for Bronx residents. Next slide, please. And some of the services that are being provided by Embark will be provided are biotech life science companies very involved developing CAR T cells and major new therapeutic for cancer and infectious diseases, as well as immunologics and antibodies to get people familiar with the power of monoclonal antibodies has been used very effectively in terms of treating COVID. This is only a rapidly expanding area of new drug development. This facility will have the ability to produce GMP quality CAR T cells as well as immunologics, and that could be quickly channeled into clinical studies. Again, that could potentially be supported by the Montefiore clinical infrastructure. And we also providing a mouse vivarium to enable the preclinical evaluation of functional activity of protein and cellular therapeutics for IND approval. Again, I want to stress that this is targeted towards biotech and life science companies and not just for Einstein investigators. The primary goal is to really accelerate and expand the development of the biotech industry here in the Bronx by providing Einstein support. And next slide. Okay, thank you very much for your attention.
That is just great. I mean, you really do have the full continuum there, right?
Yes.
From the very basic research with all of the services and support that you can give it straight through to the patient and patient care and delivery and commercialization of new technologies. It's just amazing what's going on there. So thank you. Really looking forward to future development of that. Now we'll move just a little bit north of the Bronx into Westchester County, and Deborah Novick will tell us all about the exciting things going on up there.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you to Triumvirate. I have to say that although I've been to the Hutchinson Metro campus and met with Guy and Megan there, I didn't really know all of that wonderful stuff that was happening at Einstein. So I guess an extra benefit of these kinds of symposia is getting to know your neighbors. So I'm Deborah Novick. I'm the Director of Entrepreneurship and Innovation in Westchester County. I work for the county executive and as part of the Office of Economic Development, where we have a strong focus on the biosciences, broadly speaking. And before this, I was the director of the BioInc at New York Medical College, the physical biotech incubator on the campus of New York Medical College, a fully equipped state-of-the-art incubator with lab space, co-working space, event space, conference rooms, similar probably to the incubation space that Dr. Goldstein was describing as having at Einstein. Next slide, please. So in case we have some participants on this webinar who are not local, I'll just give a very, very quick overview about Westchester County. We are the first county outside the 5 boroughs of New York City. We are attached to the Bronx. There's no rivers between us. You can see that little pie-shaped wedge. It's a little hard to see maybe, but we are the first county outside of New York City. We're population just over 1 million. And we're really right in the center of this New York metro region that Nancy was describing. That includes New York City, Long Island, Fairfield County, maybe a little farther up to Yale and parts of New Jersey. We're very proud to be active participants in this region. We have easy access not only to all the transportation throughout New York City, but we have our own airport in Westchester, and we're very close to another airport north of us. There's very ready commuting among and around all this entire region. So in some ways, these borders are a little bit irrelevant, but of course I work in economic development for Westchester County. So I do have to focus most of my attention and remarks on Westchester, but we're very happy to be so easily connected to the rich talent pool in the entire region. We have within our own borders 20 institutions of higher education. We have outstanding public schools, and we have a growing life sciences sector, home to Regeneron, the largest biotech employer in the state, just committed to a large expansion. So we also have a cluster of companies focused on neurology, aging-related conditions, cardiology, infectious disease, and many others. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are proud to be right in the heart of the nation's largest and fastest growing life sciences research hub. I think maybe Nancy covered this already, but I think what's interesting about this region is that there will be different specialties and different vibes, different neighborhoods and moods in each of the smaller clusters around this large region. There's easy transit access among all the subclusters. One thing about Westchester is that it's more affordable probably than a lot of real estate in New York City. And although I can't compare it to prices in Long Island or New Jersey, I know that we're more affordable compared to New York. But I think the important thing is that people can choose what kind of environment they want to be in. Westchester is a large county with several urban neighborhoods, urban settings, Mount Vernon, Yonkers, Portchester, and New Rochelle. And we also have some beautiful suburban towns. So you really have sort of the best of both worlds. You can be in whichever kind of environment suits yourself as a founder, as a PI, as a faculty member, or as an employee of a growing startup. Next slide, please. So right here in Westchester, we have over 8,000 workers dedicated to working in the life sciences. Our consultants tell us that that represents 20% of life sciences private employment in New York State. There are over 200 companies in Westchester working in various life sciences subsectors, including drug development, digital health, medical devices, wellness, community health, contract research, and of course, we're home to Regeneron, which already has about 4,000 employees in the county and has announced an additional 1,000 jobs related to their big expansion. There is groundbreaking research going on at New York Medical College, at Burke Neurological Institute, in the areas of oncology, cardiovascular, infectious disease, disaster medicine, vaccines, Alzheimer's, aging, autism, a wide range of specialties. Burke Neurological Institute has recently secured a grant from New York State to develop a permanent and robust clinical trials network focusing on neurological clinical trials. We have a strong culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the county with the incubator at New York Medical College and the Westchester Biosciences Accelerator Program, which Mary Howard will speak about in a short while. Life science patents issued within Westchester have doubled since 2000, and we hope to see that continuing as our pipeline filling efforts continue. And as I mentioned, we do have lower land and building costs than New York City. There is a large science campus about to begin development, the North 80, which I'll speak about in a few moments. Next slide, please. So healthcare is Westchester's largest industry sector by employment, employing almost 17% of the county's workforce and a large driver of non-residential construction in the county. We are home to 25 hospitals, some associated with Einstein and with many of the other large groups, Northwell. We have branches of Memorial Sloan Kettering and the Hospital for Special Surgery on our campus. Also, Montefiore has campuses in Westchester as well. And each of these hospitals are very active in adopting new technologies, inventing new technologies, and Westchester has been an early adopter and leader in the field of telemedicine. Teladoc is headquartered in Westchester, and there are some other telehealth providers in the region as well. And Westchester Medical Center, which Deborah Viola will speak about on her own shortly, is very, very active in clinical trials, as well as some of the other hospitals, Montefiore and New York Presbyterian, are also very active in clinical trials. Next slide, please. With New York Metro being the largest cluster, we also have the deepest pool of life sciences talent and ready availability. If companies are growing in the New York Metro area, there's ample employment opportunities available. Great pick of the smartest people to join your companies. Next slide, please. So Regeneron, which already occupies an enormous campus, will be expanding by almost 1 million additional square feet. And this will cover up the build out of up to 8 buildings, their own parking garages, some preclinical manufacturing facilities, daycare facility for employees, and they expect to add about 1,000 new employees over the next 5 years. And the construction has already begun. I attended the groundbreaking a couple of weeks ago. It's very exciting, and Regeneron's a terrific community partner and a great neighbor. They are the sponsor of the annual National Science Competition for high school students. One of their founders, George Yankopoulos, won that competition when it used to be called the Westinghouse Science Competition when he was in high school. And I think it was always his dream to sort of give back in the way of continuing to support that competition. Next slide, please. So we have done some mapping. This is actually an old picture of the map, but we have an online interactive tool where you can zoom in and out and filter by different categories and see all the assets that we have in Westchester County. We're hoping to expand the interactive map to include the assets of the whole New York Metro region in the coming months. And this just gives a quick overview of some of the categories we have. There's one error on the slide, which is that it says that only 18 startups have completed our accelerator program, but that is out of date. We have now 30 alumni of the program open for applications now for the 4th cohort. So just making a note of that, I'll try to replace the slide with the correct information before this gets posted. Next slide, please. So as you can see in the wheel on the left, our life sciences ecosystem is quite diversified. We have participants in drug development, very active therapeutic companies in our region, also medical device companies, instrumentation and pharmaceutical equipment manufacturers. We have ingredients companies, digital health, contract research, nutraceuticals, and very interesting growth, particularly in the areas of robotics and artificial intelligence to support the development of drugs and treatment regimens. Claripath and Oligomerics are examples of 2 companies that moved to Westchester in the last couple of years from New York City, where they could find the space that was most suitable for them. Each has about 30 or 35 employees and growing. Oligomerics is a biotech company working on something for Alzheimer's, a treatment for Alzheimer's focused on the tau protein. And Claripath is a robotics company that has developed a piece of equipment they call Section Star, which is automating the last remaining manual process in histopathology. Next slide, please. As I mentioned, we have Burke Neurological Research Institute, a leading research institute, part of the Cornell family, focused on traumatic brain injury, stroke, and other neurological conditions. They're really leading the way in commercialization of robotics and other treatments to help patients with brain injury and other conditions. We're the proud home to New York Medical College, which is one of the oldest medical colleges in the country. Also on that campus is the Touro College of Dental Medicine, one of the newest dental colleges in the country. SUNY Purchase is doing a lot of groundbreaking research in the behavioral sciences. And of course, the IBM Thomas Watson Research Center is headquartered in Armonk. Along with the additional academic programs that you can see on the right, we have STEM-related degrees being offered, associates, bachelors, masters, PhDs at most of these well-recognized institutions. Next slide, please. NIH funding and SBIR funding and patent issuance are all growing in Westchester. A big focus on the neurological category, neurology, aging, Alzheimer's, and spinal cord injury, but strong representation also in cardiology, in the behavioral sciences, and in oncology and infectious disease as well. I'm very proud of what's going on. in both basic research and commercialization in the county, and love to see this kind of growth. The next slide, please. And as I mentioned, we're an affordable location for real estate. If you have a company that's looking for a new spot, we hope you'll consider Westchester. The incubator is a great place if you're a very small early stage company. We have a lot of core facilities there, discounted access to the vivarium and other shared equipment. There's wonderful step out space at RMC Bio 1, just down the street from New York Medical College and around the corner from Regeneron. That is where Claripath is located. And the future opportunity, which I alluded to earlier, is the North 80. This is 80 acres that's in the center of the county, in the center of the cluster, which we hope will break ground next year and will be a fully comprehensive campus with biotech research space, lab space, offices, retail, hotel and conference center, and some kind of science education center. I'm actually visiting an example of this type of a science and education center today. I'm hopeful we'll be bringing a program like that to this campus. Next slide, please. So just in summary, I want to leave some time for my colleagues. We have a very strong community of collaboration here. I lead a biosciences task force in the county where stakeholders from all sides of our ecosystem advise us and help us understand what the challenges are so that we can move our ecosystem forward. We have 4 working groups, strong support from county government, corporate partners, the business community, and academic partners. Our Biosciences Accelerator is supported not only by the county itself, but by corporate sponsors and lots of mentors volunteering from the community. We had over 100 investors attending our pitch day this year. I hope I'm not stealing your thunder, Mary. Westchester Medical Center, stealing Deborah's thunder, has a new clinical research strategy and has been recruiting faculty and enhancing their clinical trials activities. I mentioned Burke is developing this robust clinical trials network, and both the incubator at New York Medical College and the Biosciences Accelerator program are expanding. Westchester Angels is becoming more active in life sciences investing. So overall, I would just like to reiterate that Westchester is a great place to be part of the life sciences. If you're looking for a spot, we hope you'll consider it. We're so happy to be part of this growing ecosystem with neighbors in the Bronx and all of New York City's boroughs and up through Fairfield County and into the Hudson Valley. That company is Oligomerics. I saw that question pop up. I'm happy to answer more questions at the end of the program. Thanks very much.
Great, Deborah. You know, I just took the train up to Westchester to do some hiking at Rockefeller State Park, and it's very easy to get there on an express train. It's 20 minutes, which, you know, I was surprised about. So, and, you know, just having Regeneron in your space is just amazing. They really are, I think, the only example in the greater New York metro life science cluster that came from a startup to a fully, you know, integrated biopharmaceutical company, and were absolutely instrumental in helping to, you know, to innovate treatments for the coronavirus in the pandemic. So that story is just extraordinary.
Yep, there's so many great stories. I wish I had time to tell more of them, but yes, they're a great example of a homegrown success, you know, 25 or 30 years later, but we're so proud of everything they've achieved. And George and Len like to tell the story about when they were just the two of them in a one-room office and lab and doing all their directory research at New York Medical College's medical library because they couldn't afford access to their own directories and their own research publications. So yeah, it's a great homegrown story.
Yeah, I mean, I remember them as a startup at Landmark at Eastview when I was doing some early work there earlier in my career. So it's an extraordinary story, success story. Yeah. So Deborah, tell us about what's going on at the Westchester Medical Center.
Well, thank you. And, I'll only take a few minutes. I think a lot has been shared already by Deborah. But I know that sometimes folks lose sight of the academic medical center in this region, which we are at Westchester Medical Center. We are part of the Westchester Medical Center Health Network, which totals over 1,700 inpatient beds. We've got actually 10 hospitals on 8 campuses that span about 6,200 square miles across the Hudson Valley region of New York State, which makes us also one of the largest employers in the Hudson Valley. But the flagship of WMC Health Network, of course, is Westchester Medical Center. We are located in the hamlet of Valhalla, which is about 30 miles outside of New York City. I think Deborah had shown you that map. And I think what's interesting is our history, that we were founded in 1917 as an Army hospital to care for victims of the what was then the global influenza epidemic. And we found ourselves over 100 years later caring for more recently the victims or patients of the global COVID epidemic. And in fact, we were designated by New York State Department of Health as the COVID-19 vaccine hub for the Hudson Valley region. And we did manage vaccine distribution out of the Westchester County Center. But I think what we were also able to do, given our history here and our knowledge of Westchester County and of the entire Hudson Valley region, was we were really able to take some data and get a sense of where there was vaccine hesitancy or where access was an issue. And we would go out to community and kind of bring the needles to the arms where the arms were with the pop-up clinics and everything else. And that's not unimportant, because I think being close to the folks that you care for and having that trust also makes you a good place for folks to come and participate in clinical trials. And so I think that that's a really, really important part of folks thinking about doing their research here in Westchester County, and that we do have access to individuals who want to come closer to home and participate in this research and in these trials, as opposed to trying to get into the city and go back and forth and all of that. We are the regional base of tertiary and quaternary care, and therefore we are also the primary referral facility for all other hospitals in the Hudson Valley. So we are the lifeline for millions of people here. Our patients are transported to us in large part because of some of the services we provide on our Valhalla campus, which I'll cover in a moment. But I want to, of course, mention our long-term academic affiliation with the New York Medical College. Deborah mentioned the BioInc incubator, which is, I can walk to, it's right around the corner. I myself am from the New York Medical College, 17 years there before I literally walked down the street to Westchester Medical Center. That gives us a very nice presence. Also, this affiliation is how we collaborate on the important clinical research and commit to the training of the next generation of healthcare professionals, quite frankly, in this area and in this region. And we integrate that research to advance the treatment and expand knowledge and, of course, improve the health outcomes. We are also excited about the development of the North 80 project, which will be directionally, I think, here over my right shoulder, because of all of the additional opportunities that it'll bring to our faculty and our patients and our students, the people that we train. On this campus, though, in addition to the Westchester Medical Center and the New York Medical College, we have the Maria Ferrari Children's Hospital, which is the only all-specialty children's hospital in the region, as well as a specialized high-risk obstetric center. We are one of the largest mental health systems in New York State, and we have a growing telemedicine program, telemedicine service, which is important because it connects the entire Hudson Valley all of the residents with immediate life-saving care. We can care for them here remotely. And that means they have access as well to several centers of excellence on this campus, including the Trauma and Burn Center, which is New York's only burn center between New York City and the Canadian border. The Transplant Center, which is home to the leading kidney transplant program in New York State, and only a handful of liver transplant programs. And we've got our Neurosciences Center, our Heart Center, and our Cancer Institute. And of course, all of these feature prominently in our research portfolio. But I think what's really special when we think about the life sciences ecosphere here in Westchester and along the Hudson Valley is that we house the Cellular and Tissue Engineering Laboratory, which is a state-of-the-art cell manufacturing and processing facility designed to service a range of programs in oncology, hematology, neurology, genetics, and cardiology that harness stem cell, cellular, tissue, and gene therapies. Our CETO lab is only one of a dozen or so in the entire United States and only one of two in New York State. Obviously, we have our colleagues in the city, and we are the only one, of course, in the Hudson Valley. The lab consists of 8,000 square foot current good manufacturing process facilities that meet all FDA requirements, with advanced equipment designed to facilitate and enhance cellular therapy manufacture under new investigational drug applications. But our goal isn't only to improve patient outcomes, to think about the diagnostics and therapeutics. Our goal is actually to cure patients through the discovery of core platform technologies for personalized cell and gene therapies. I have a little clip that I'd like to share. I don't know if you guys have it to boot or if I have to do a screen share. Oh, you got it, great.
Many first-in-human clinical trials of cellular therapy in the United States originate in the Westchester Medical Center Cellular and Tissue Engineering Laboratory, otherwise known as CETO. Children and adults from around the country travel to Westchester Medical Center to receive these advanced cellular therapies for curative treatments. Today, we are trialing a cellular therapy approach for sickle cell disease that often kills patients in their mid-40s, and we can boast a 90% success survival rate. Other groundbreaking trials include cellular therapies for leukemia, lymphoma, aplastic anemia, immune deficiencies, and even deadly refractory viral infections with similar high success rates. And now, we have the first human study using cellular therapy to prevent death in high-risk patients with mild to moderate COVID that is creating a new treatment paradigm for future pandemics.
Thank you. And that was Mitchell Cairo, Dr. Mitchell Cairo. He's one of our leading research scientists. And that 90% success survival rate, we get patients from all over the country come to us for sickle cell treatment. And it's interesting to note the work that we're doing to prevent death in high-risk patients from COVID, given our origins in 1917, back when we were treating and caring for folks with influenza. And so Deborah mentioned as well, directionally where we're going, and we think about the future, and it is about infectious and non-infectious new generation diagnostics and therapeutics, and the vitality of this sector creates so many opportunities for small firms here. In fact, we've talked about this compositional change in the industry, in the pharma industry, and I think that was evidenced, right, with the vaccine discoveries. And so it's good to know that we really can start, folks can start right at the incubator at the New York Medical College. They can bring some of their transformative work, think about the manufacturing space that they need right along the same space here, and develop and grow into a company like Regeneron. So for us, we like to think about where will the expansion be in tech transfer and successful business development. How do we forge academic medical center partnerships with pharma industry, and for us specifically in translational cellular therapy, predominantly in targeted not only cell therapy, gene therapy, regenerative therapy. And so it's exciting for us to be part of Westchester County's growth and development. And it was it's been a really good experience working with Deborah and working with Mary Howard as well. Thank you.
That was a great presentation, Deborah. Thank you. And, the new treatments you're talking about will really revolutionize patient care and bring, clinical care so much closer to the research bench that it's mind-boggling. But all of these individualized treatments really are curing people and offering hope across the country right now. So just very inspiring. Thank you. Now we've got Dr. Rajiv Ratan, Chief Executive Officer, who's going to share an overview of neuroscience research across Burke Neurological Institute. As a nonprofit independent neuro repair and research arm of Weill Cornell Medicine, the Institute leverages its academic affiliate connection and collaborates with the best neurology experts worldwide to discover ways to repair the brain and spinal cord. It also develops treatments for neurological conditions aimed to restore functions and abilities and bring hope to people living with neurological disabilities caused by stroke, Alzheimer's disease, traumatic brain injury, spinal cord injury, and other lifelong neurological conditions. Carolina, can you get to the next slide in the brief video?
So I wanted to tell you about some of the amazing things that are happening in the Institute. I think you'll get to meet some of the people. Obviously on the top of our list, Gary Gibson, who's sitting over there, has been working on the role of thiamine in Alzheimer's disease for more than 40 years. And last year he had a very exciting phase 2A trial, which showed really promising results with the drug benfotiamine. And that recently has been leveraged into a multi-center, almost $50 million trial supported by the NIH. And I think it is, I show this punching above our weight because it shows really how a small institute working collaboratively with Weill Cornell can be driving therapeutic development from institutions that are much larger around the country. Christina Fallo and Malco Kitago have been leading our chronic stroke efforts. I don't know if Joan Spivak is here, but I think she's going to come. Recently, we've partnered with government and industry to develop the first clinical trial for chronic stroke, a trial platform that really will bring together this idea that the brain is optimally repaired by modulating plasticity and as well as shaping that plasticity with experience. And this is a real, I think it's the first of its kind in the world. It's a wonderful example of how we really need government to help us de-risk trials that are highly risky, but that great science is not getting to patients, and we have to facilitate those efforts. Diana Willis has been doing wonderful work on chronic pain. As you know, the opiate crisis is upon us, and we need mechanisms to be able to treat pain, chronic pain in particular, with agents that are non-addictive. And Diana's been working with Peter Goldstein at Weill Cornell. They have a wonderful therapeutic target and agents to manipulate that target that are moving towards humans. Yutaka Yoshida has trained with Tom Jessel, has brought wonderful efforts in circuit repair. I think historically there's been a focus on molecules and cells and then on behavior in humans, but there's an important interface, and that is the brain is organized by circuits. And I think that his work on ALS, and Friedreich's ataxia. I think this has been funded in part through the Hamiltons, who are one of our honorees, really is taking the field in a new and important direction. Vibhu Sani has been developing a wonderful model of pediatric spinal cord injury, and this was recently funded through the state. And it really offers an opportunity to understand why the nervous system regenerates during development, but not in adulthood. And I think it will teach us a lot about how to repair the injured spinal cord. Finally, I would be remiss by, actually I have two more, Kathleen Friel, who many of you should meet because she is a leading researcher in cerebral palsy, but she also has CP. So she is in many ways our poster child for how a disability does not have to limit your trajectory in life. And she's done an amazing job of really identifying strategies that treat CP both in children and adults. And I want to finish with Edmund Hollis. Edmund has brought, again, circuit analysis to understanding brain repair. He just received $300,000 from the state of New York to advance a clinical trial with the Mass General focused on really improving upper extremity function in patients with chronic spinal cord injury. And it is important to mention that for the past 7 years, despite there being 17 medical schools in New York, that the BNI and Cornell have received more money from the Spinal Cord Injury Research Program, which gives more than $8 million a year, than any other institution in the state. And that means $1.5 million a year over the past 7 years. And it's really, again, a testament to the fact that even small institutions, which partner effectively with larger organizations in government, industry, and academia, can achieve remarkable things. And so I think this is only sort of a taste of the great things that are happening here. And we really invite you to take a tour because people are often really surprised by what's going on here in this small campus here in Westchester.
So now introducing Mary Howard, Executive Director of Design Technologies, to talk about the Catalyst.
Thank you, Nancy. What a wonderful program. It's so fantastic to hear about all of the activities in the Bronx and now Westchester. Can we move forward to the next slide? I am a serial entrepreneur who is working, running a program for Westchester County for Deborah Novick, who you've heard from, to bring innovators to a place where they can commercialize their new technology. We've been working in the Metro New York area where we continue to work with about half academic spinouts. They have been extraordinarily beyond our imagination, successful in terms of growth, especially when you think about where New York was in 2012. Including an organization that was sold in Touch Health to Teladoc for $600 million. So there have been across industries and technologies, and we're very thrilled to be here in Westchester. And I want to talk to you about what we see as some unique capabilities in Westchester. So let's go to the next slide. This program is a very straightforward education and business networking program that Westchester County has initiated and supports. We canvass the area and many of the medical research institutes to solicit applications, which are then competitively reviewed and selected. And then they go through a program of education and networking. This is very highly integrated with the Westchester community. And I will say that having spent 7 years in New York City, what I come to find is that many people who I was meeting in New York City actually live in Westchester and are very eager to see the Westchester community come together and recognize the Westchester, all the attributes of the parks and the fantastic public schools and the wonderful space that people have where they live, and have been very enthusiastic and very generous, not only as Deborah Novick mentioned with the Westchester Angels, but also with lending their particular expertise throughout the early stage life science areas to these nascent ventures. So it's been really exciting to see how quickly we've been able to move forward with ventures in Westchester. Let's go to the next slide. One of the things that we started mapping was connections. The program is known for connections, but I will tell you that one of the silver linings, if you can call it that, to the pandemic is the changes in how we connect to one another and the willingness of volunteers to be able to connect online has just exponentially increased the amount of connections we can provide, which is absolutely essential to 1- and 2-person companies. So if we had 4, then we had connections per venture when we started. We're up to on average 12 now in Westchester, which is a huge community, which helps cement them to the location where they are. So very, very exciting time to see all of this, which will continue. Can we go to the next slide? We want to just say this program is doing 2 things. One, on an economic development basis, we're trying to encourage people to get out there and build their businesses. So we deal with a lot of companies who are getting their very first revenue during the program. Companies are coming in. Surprisingly, a lot of them are formed, and they're coming in and they're adding more people by the end of the program. So what that means as far as space is concerned is that people start looking for space. So let's go on to the next one and just talk a little bit about that. The first alums started moving into Bio Inc., the New York Medical College incubator that's located in Valhalla. And if you noticed in the map that Deborah Novick shared, there is a co-location. That incubator, which George Ankopoulos and Len worked in, is 2.5 miles from where they work now, and is on the campus of New York Medical College, and is within the same, I'll call it an office park, that's not the proper name, of the Westchester Medical campus. So there is a real efficiency here already in the setup of that facility. We are also seeing ventures moving in to Westchester and expanding, and people looking for more space on the wet lab side right now. So we expect that to continue, and we're definitely seeing the trends that we saw in New York City and in Connecticut, accelerating almost at the level of Connecticut in terms of the size of company and pace of some company growth and employees. Can we go to the next slide? Our applications are open now for the 2023 program. So this will be the 4th year of the program. Just remember, innovation in this field takes a long time. These are, this is a long play. And what we see, which is very heartening, is that people who are coming through these programs are sticking to it. 10 years ago, we started in New York City. 80% of those ventures are still in business and growing. And we have seen a similar kind of trajectory with the Westchester teams. We're very interested in your sharing the program with people you know. If there are corporations who are also committed to the long-term growth of these ventures, we want to connect with you. We know that other corporate supporters, as JP Morgan Chase and Wilson Sonsini and Pfizer, Atos Tech, have come to support Westchester after having supported New York City's program and Connecticut's program. They see a great growth and great potential, which we are also seeing. And for a lot, we're seeing sort of the tip of the commercialization path. We have many talented people in Westchester who have volunteered from all areas, and we're very fortunate to have that kind of support from the community. And we are looking forward to continuing to build this pipeline out and welcome people to join us. We have had the opportunity to work with Burke Neuro. We have one of their researchers who has started an initiative with vision enhancement. We work with Deborah Viola, running an annual hospital reverse pitch, which Westchester Medical Center is hosting this coming year. It's a very collaborative community. There's a lot of support and a lot of sophisticated work that's going on in Westchester, and also the innovation side of things is just we see picking up steam. So very exciting time to be in Westchester. So thank you for the opportunity to talk about this.
Yeah, thank you, Mary, for all the work you're doing. I mean, the commercialization of these new technologies is really key to bringing them to people. And so without what you're doing, making that connection and helping these companies to grow and develop, many of us would never have the opportunity to experience their innovation. So thank you very much.
Our pleasure to do the work.
Now we're going to turn to the Hudson Valley iCampus. Very exciting. This is an area where Pfizer did a lot of work on the vaccine for the coronavirus. And so Sheena, tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you, Nancy. I know we only have a few minutes, so we'll run through this quickly, but I'm Sheena Gohill. I'm with Colliers International and Executive Managing Director over here, and I sit in the New York City office. I also have my colleague, Rob Lella, on the phone or on the Zoom, who really covers the Westchester and Connecticut marketplaces. We also have another member that wasn't able to join that covers our New Jersey location or marketplace. Carolina, if you can go to the next slide. Just a quick snapshot on the team. I mentioned, our Colliers team that is focusing on the campus. We're the agents for IRG, who is the owner of the Hudson Valley iCampus, and IRG had made an announcement recently to hire Jamie Schwartz, who is an experienced executive with as the president of the Hudson Valley iCampus. He comes from, a long-standing background on the landlord side and brought a team with him that is also very experienced from Matt Cali and GHP and Trinity. You can go to the next slide. So just a little bit about the campus. We have renamed it the Hudson Valley iCampus, and it is really conveniently located by Westchester, Hudson Valley, and New Jersey. You can see sort of on the map where the locations of, bridges and airports and train stations. The train stations are in gray. are located. It's a 25 building campus on 207 acres. 30 of those acres are potentially developable. It's a mixed use campus, multi-tenanted. There is a central plant and a cogen plant. It has built, existing infrastructure. There were, uses already that had built out space that's GMP, lab, and several other uses we'll go into in a second. You can go to the next slide. So this is just a quick snapshot of some of the tenants that are on the campus, the more sort of recognizable names. What's important to note is that area that is in dark blue is occupied and owned by Pfizer. Pfizer used to own, the Hudson Valley I campus, which is the area in sort of the light gray. But in 2015, IRG had purchased the site and has really been, amplifying the types of tenants that have been attracted to the campus. So there's tenants such as Sanofi, RK Pharma. There was recently in the news a transaction done with Momentive, and we've done some leasing as well in a high bay distribution building that's in the back of the campus. And you may have read, recently in the news that Pfizer had just announced to spend over $470 million on their campus. As Nancy mentioned, this is where they primarily did a lot of their COVID vaccine research and development. And so it's a real benefit to Rockland County, which is where this site sits for the future of this area. So I'll turn it to Rob.
Will they be expanding just on their campus, or will they expand into some of the other buildings?
So we're not able to really talk about the details on that. But it's great to see, their commitment to this area.
Yeah, no, it was a wonderful announcement. I did see it.
And I'll turn it to Rob to talk a little bit about the buildings that have some availability and some of the details around that. You can go to the next slide, Carolina. And actually, if you can click on the building video as well, while
we could just
kind of introducing.
Yeah, we could just wait 1 second with the video, but thank you, Sheena, and thank you, Nancy and NYC Builds Bio for inviting us to present the Hudson Valley I campus. Obviously, a very exciting project and opportunity in the region, and obviously there's been a tremendous resurgence recently. Sheena touched on the vast number of occupiers that are on the campus, but we'd also like to talk about the opportunities for biotech and life science occupiers. So if we could just play the video, we can go through Building 100, which is the largest opportunity on the campus, which is 900,000 square feet. It's a 6-story building, vertically manufacturing building. If you could just hit the video.
Yeah, just click on the link for the space video, Carolina, if you can.
Actually, do we?
Yeah, if you can X out of that and scroll down. Sorry, scroll down and just click on that floor. There's another video linked in there. And there's a play button on the bottom, right? Yep, sorry.
So this is Building 100, which is the largest opportunity on the campus. The floor plates on this building are 142,000 square feet. It's a former vertically manufacturing building, has robust infrastructure, has 100 air handlers in the building, has heavy floor loads, 14 to 16 foot slab to slab ceiling height. It's got 20 by 20 column spacing. It has heavy power supported by a central utility plant, freight elevators, and obviously you could see the built out wet lab space with fume hoods. All this space is available. That overlooks the campus right there outside the lab window. And then this is some additional warehouse space. There's GMP manufacturing space throughout the building. 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor or former GMP manufacturing space. There's perimeter support offices, clean rooms. The 23 megawatt central utility plant provides electricity, steam, and chilled water to the tenants. This is the lower level ground floor space, which supports the inbound and outbound activity, loading and staging area. Has 35 loading docks at the rear of the building. There's also a large freezer and cooler space in this building on the lower level as well. And if we could just go to the next slide, please.
And Rob really kind of went over the largest availability on the site, but there are other sites or other buildings that have availability, from sort of high bay manufacturing space to, built small sort of incubator lab space, and, additional lab space that could be built out as well. And just to touch on sort of the area amenities, this sits right between the Nanuet area, the Palisades Center, and also downtown Pearl River. It's right over the border of New Jersey, and there are a lot of amenities in the area. So if anybody wants to learn any more about the site or would like to come by, we're happy to host you.
And the Hudson Valley iCampus has a great website also. It's www.hvicampus.com, which shows all the availabilities and plans and all the information on the campus. There's actually a tenant portal on there as well.
Terrific. That is quite impressive. And I'm actually coming out to visit. So I'm really looking forward to seeing more of what you've got on the campus. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide, Carolina. So thank you all for staying with us. I know there's been a lot of information presented today. It'll all be up on the website, so you can explore it at your leisure. And look more deeply into anything that you're interested in. Deborah has an event going on Thursday. So for those of you who are interested in more information, please contact her. She put the information in the chat, and Mary Howard also put her information in the chat. So if you would like to get in touch with her about her program, that would be great. You're seeing our upcoming events on this slide. On August 11th, we'll be touring the Advanced Science Research Center at CUNY in Harlem, which we're very excited about. We just toured the Manhattanville Factory District last week. About 60 people came, and we had a wonderful time together. And Reverence was the restaurant, and the food was great, and there was beer and wine. So sign up for that. It's promised to be another great evening. In September, on the 8th, we are holding our last webinar series, Gateway to Connecticut, all about Connecticut and what's going on there. And then moving to Philadelphia, our first inaugural symposium in Philly at the Union League of Philadelphia on September 13th. We are also hosting an in-person tour and reception at the Hudson Research Center in October. And our own NYC symposium will be on November 1st at the Time Center. So put all of those on your calendar. We look forward to seeing you there, and have a great rest of the day, everyone.
Thanks so much, Nancy.